We'll begin with the words of Psalm 118. Please listen and join us as we're going to repeat it a few times, and we hope that you will join in. This is Aunt Karen. And I am Rabbi Lauren Filson-Lapidus, and this is Rabbi Micah Lapidus. Yes, we are married. The last name is no accident.
We could have been siblings.
Thanks for making it weird. Like, we are 2 minutes in, and you just did that. It is Shabbat. It is a joyous time. So as you can tell, we would prefer to smile and laugh and rejoice, because that is really what this time is all about. But both Micah and I want to say how honored we are to be standing on this historic pulpit. To the members of Hebrew Congregation of St. Thomas, I know you are in the liminal state of having just said goodbye to Rabbi Moch. His farewell sermon was here, and I'm leaving it there because I feel like it just should stay there until your new rabbi, Rabbi Margolis, comes. And when that does come, I know it will be a time for great rejoicing. I'm so glad that it worked out that we are here with the Johnson family, and so we can be here to lead services with your community. And while we are in leadership, please know we feel so humbled to be here and are honored to be your guests. And for anything we do that is not usually how you do it, Yom Kippur has come early, Al Chet Shechatanu. We ask for your forgiveness, and thank you so much. We are honored to be here from Atlanta, to be here with the Johnson family in honor of Max's bar mitzvah. It is really so special, Max, and tomorrow we're going to talk about how you are the reason that we are all here. But as we take a moment and look around, how many people have traveled from near, well, I guess your grandma Trudy and your grandpa Neil, near, and everyone else from far to be here because of our love and our excitement for you on this milestone. Thank you for bringing us to this moment in time. And so tonight's theme is twofold. It's Shabbat, the day of rest, and it's also gathering, how we can create a community in so many ways. Because many of us are gathered here for the first time, and yet somehow we now form one community. By the end of this time together, we will feel connected because we will have shared this experience. How amazing it is that through Shabbat and through community, we can make that so. And so I invite you to take a moment and turn to those sitting near you and next to you and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. And to those who are on Zoom, Shabbat Shalom. We see you.
Shabbat Shalom, darling.
In addition to the worship service, there are 3 rituals that often take place at home, but in a communal context we do in the synagogue. Two of them, Kiddush and Motzi, we'll do at the end as a transition into our Oneg Shabbat. But the first is the lighting of Shabbat candles, which truly, as an accommodation to the elements here in the island, sit in glass, which I might have to take home to Atlanta because we battle air conditioners. But for the lighting of our sacred candles, the kindling of the flame that indicates the beginning of Shabbat, we are honored to invite forward 3 generations. Max, as you come forward with your mother, Jennifer, and your grandma, Trudy, who is a longtime member of this congregation, to light our Shabbat candles, we are on page 120.
It gives me great joy to be here tonight for the celebration of my grandson's bar mitzvah and to share the moment with so many members of our family, friends, and members of this congregation that has been for 30 years a really important part of my life. So thank you all for being here. And this is the most challenging part.
We'll make a list of all the similarities between this congregation and our one at home, and this is one of them.
There we go. Max should be doing this. He's a whole lot taller than I am. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechad ligner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who sanctifies us with mitzvot and commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. Amen. Mazel tov.
We'll turn in our prayer books to page 138, where we find the words of Lechad Odi, this beautiful hymn written 600-700 years ago on a hill not unlike this one in the city of Tzfat in northern Israel, overlooking a beautiful horizon and welcoming the spirit of Shabbat. And this is a melody that I composed while in the very city where these words were written so long ago, and I'm so happy that we have a chance to share it together. It's meant to be familiar and recognizable, even though no one has ever heard it before.
We'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we come to the last verse, for those who are able, we stand and we face the door through which we entered to welcome Shabbat like a bride in our midst. Shemot we turn now to page 144 as we rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divrach irutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala, bagala, uv'izman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam u'ol me'amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha brichu le'la min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'meru amen. As we turn to page 146 and remain standing, we invite Max to join us here on the pulpit as we continue with the Baruch Hu. Continue with roll into dark. The words are not in your prayer book, but I understand this has become a custom here in the community. The words are very simple. Roll into dark and borei yom v'layla. Golel or mimnei choshech, as we praise the sunset and the darkness. So pick whatever part feels more comfortable, English or Hebrew. Roll into dark, roll into dark. Night comes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll along the lilac, roll along mipnei choshech, roll along mipnei choshech, vechoshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Light becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Light becomes day, day turns to night. Page 150.
Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our day. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod. may be seated as we join with Max in the Ve'ahavta on page 154.
Are you singing it with me, or is it just me?
Yeah, you start.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבביך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ובשרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You can take your binder. High five. If you want to hear more of Max, come tomorrow morning. But it is, I still remember before my bat mitzvah, the sense of just getting your feet wet, pardon the pun, by being up here. As we continue now with the Micha Mocha, a bit of an introduction. So when I first met with Max and his family to discuss his bar mitzvah, and just as a by the way, I had the opportunity to travel with Jen and Ben and Max and Marcus and a lot of people who are here when we went to Israel on a congregational trip for Marcus's bar mitzvah in 2017. So they came to talk about doing a bar mitzvah here, and I asked why St. Thomas. And Max replied with many reasons, primarily because his grandparents live here, also to swim with sea lions and dolphins, and really just to be anywhere near the water. Max, while people who don't know you might have thought you were joking, immediately this told us really so much about you, that you love the water and you love all it represents. And somehow, though you had never been here, you felt a connection to this island, this congregation, and this place, because it is a home to your grandparents, even if you had never seen it. It's almost like we think about Israel. We feel a connection, even though we've never been here. You chose to make your milestone transition to adulthood here. And that is a very special blessing, as you heard, to your grandparents, but also to this congregation. Transitions through water are a very Jewish idea. 2 weeks ago, we read in the Torah how the Israelites left slavery in Egypt through water, the parting of the seas. Each week, we recall that miraculous redemption through the words of Micha Mocha, and we imagine what it must have been like to look with uncertainty and fear and excitement into a parted sea. From that moment on in our people's history, we have used water to sustain, to renew, and to purify our people. So Micah and I are both rabbis, and as you may have caught on from his remark about the Lecha Dodi, while I am a rabbi at the temple in Atlanta, Micah is rabbi at the Davis Academy, a Jewish day school, but also a composer of Jewish music in his own right, under a variety of different labels, I guess, now. But when we have special life cycle events among our family and close friends, we like to compose a piece of music that then will always carry the name and the date of this special occasion. So Max, for your bar mitzvah, and also in honor of this amazing congregation, the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas, that is part of your family story, we have composed a version of Micha Mocha that we will debut tonight and also use tomorrow. It represents the water as a place where we find ourselves, just as our ancestors found themselves through the crossing of the sea. And it acknowledges that for anyone who makes this island of St. Thomas a home, even just for a weekend, the water is an integral part and blessing of this place. So it is in your handouts. Please join with us, because you'll notice the melody repeats a lot.
Anything could happen.
Standing at the water, it calls to me. are here, so many of us, on vacation from real life. And yet, real life has a way sometimes of finding us even into Shabbat. And so as Aunt Karen comes back up as we prepare for Hashkivenu, I want to say a few words about this particular prayer. We only say it at night because we know that when the sun sets, it's a time of uncertainty. It's harder to find our footing. And we also sit with the weight of wondering, have we done enough with this day? And for most of us, the answer is almost. We also know that as the sun sets, there are many who sit in uncertainty that is not just limited to one moment in time, who sit in uncertainty because they do not have shelter, they do not have food, they do not have family, they do not have community like this. We've been talking a lot about the word blessed today. Truly, each of us has so many blessings. And we take a moment as we sing these words of Hashkivenu to pray that we can extend these blessings not just through our actions but through our prayers, that God will spread a Sukkat Shalom, a shelter of peace over us and over all the world. So we are on page 160. You can join with us in the words of Hashkivenu, or you can close your eyes and just center your prayers to all of the places where you would like to bring that Sukkat Shalom. We continue on page 162 with the words of Yismechu as we celebrate the joy of Shabbat. And I was actually telling Trudy earlier, every time I sing this, I go back to 6th grade. There was a man named Harry Berkowitz, Alav HaShalom, who was asked to teach the 6th grade because no one was willing to do it in our tiny, tiny synagogue north of Pittsburgh. And this was the only prayer he taught us until they realized it had taken him 6 weeks to teach us this prayer, and they suggested that maybe we should go on to other things. But it's amazing the memories that we create that we don't even know. And so as we sing this joy of Shabbat, let's think about the memories that we could be making this Shabbat, the impact we have on those around us that we may never fully know, but by being present and by lending our voice and our hearts and our willingness to share, that we truly can make an impact on someone else's life and heart. And then maybe they'll find themselves 30 years later telling that story. Let's join together on the bottom of page 162. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mikadeshei, mikadeshei shevi Shabbat. Kulam yisbehu, vayitangu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim, oto kerata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'masei, l'masei v'reshit Shabbat. Zecher l'masei, l'masei v'reshit Shabbat. You know your part. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. We turn to page 164 and rise as we begin the Amidah together. It's helpful just to have you. So great. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei v'Nehem, L'ma'an Shemo b'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayeh me'emunato, Lishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'al givurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yalucha sela, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. We continue silently through page 180 or with the prayers of our hearts, and when you are finished, you may be seated. shalom. Bimroma, ose shalom. Bimroma, huyase, huyase, huyase shalom. Huyase, huyase, huyase shalom. Huyase, huyase, huyase shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom. Be Rama. Oh, say shalom. We have prayed for peace for the evening. We have prayed for peace just now for the world. And now we pray for the most personal kind of peace, the peace that comes with healing. Restoration of the wholeness of body, comfort and healing of the mind, and peace of the soul. For we know that while we often talk about illness of the body, the truth is that our prayers need to go in so many places to those who suffer from illness of mind, body, and spirit. In the middle of our handouts are a list of names of those who've asked that we pray for them this Shabbat. And I invite us to take a moment just to call to mind all for whom we are praying. Those close in our family circles and friends, those who we know are devastated by earthquakes, those who we know are victims of violence. Let us carry all of them in our hearts as we join together. Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. I again want to say thank you to the congregation for the opportunity to lead from this bima. I can only imagine how many footprints have touched these grains of sand, and we are honored to be able to count ourselves among them. I will also say to Jen and Ben and the whole Johnson family, I can't remember the last time Micah and I got to lead services together and actually had to work as a team. I mean, we work as a team all the time. We're married, but I should be careful about that. But this idea of just being able to be here and to bring Shabbat here is really very special. So thank you for this gift. As I said at the beginning, the theme is gathering, because here we are gathered. Some of us guests and visitors, others longtime residents and members. And I am just curious, if you are a member here, that is, you aren't just flying in for the weekend, would you raise your hands? Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for having all of us. So as I mentioned, I am one of the rabbis for the Johnson family at the temple in Atlanta. If ever you find yourself in Atlanta, Georgia, please come visit us. We are kind of like you, a gathering place. We are the oldest and most centrally located synagogue in Atlanta, and we welcome tour groups and community events, and we're a major address whenever anyone wants to find the Jewish community. But I have to be honest, it is nothing compared to the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas. You are older. You were also more visited. I saw it this morning as people were trying to come in. You represent Jewish history in a really profound and important way. And you provide a Jewish gathering place for visitors near and far. The name for a synagogue in Hebrew is Beit Knesset, a house of gathering. Wherever we find ourselves as a Jewish community, we need a gathering place. And the synagogue is where we look literally. And tonight we want to reflect on gathering metaphorically. But we begin by acknowledging that the gathering space is for the Jewish community, not just Jews. From the biblical time, we have understood that our community includes those who choose to gather with us through marriage, through friendship, through curiosity, through seeking, and more. The first gathering place we hear of in the Bible is the well. There's the story of Abraham sending his servant on a quest to find Isaac a wife. The sign that he has found the right person comes at the well, the gathering place in the town, where she offers him water and offers water to his animals. And this is where Rebecca then makes her choice to come and be one of our matriarchs. The well is where Moses found Yitro after his fleeing from Egypt and reconnects with his people and his God. The well becomes a central location because it's a place of survival. It's literally water. I don't need to tell residents here that water is a very, very precious resource. And people would come to gather in that place. And it also is no accident that these important transitions, these meetings that change the course of our story, happen at the well, which is a metaphor for transformation, renewal, and rebirth. Another place of gathering for the Jewish community is around shared values. This week's Torah portion, Mishpatim, comes after two arguably more dramatic Torah portions that we've been reading, pivotal moments in Jewish history. The first was the crossing of the sea, and the second is the gathering at Mount Sinai for the giving of the Ten Commandments, the beginning of the covenant. Max is going to teach us a lot about Mishpatim tomorrow, and I'm therefore not going to step too far on his toes. But I will say that the drama is gone. We go from Mount Sinai to commandments, lots and lots of laws. But the community continues to gather. The laws actually create the threads that keep them connected. The mitzvot, the commandments, and the values that we build from them are what hold us together. We've made a covenant with God, and then through our actions and our values, we begin to be in covenant with one another. And finally, our gathering is Lador Vador, generation to generation. Each week, we stand on the shoulders of the Jewish people who've come before us. We stand and relive our history. We recall the crossing of the sea. Tomorrow, we will recall the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. In a few moments, we will recite Kaddish. We will recall our ancestors who helped to make us who we are. And also, especially with Bar Mitzvah, we celebrate Lador Vador. We celebrate generation to generation. How beautiful it is to see multiple generations of your family, Max, to see you with your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, to know that you are here because all of the branches of your family tree have led you to this moment, that you create gathering, because we have said from generation to generation, being part of a community gathered in one place matters. Tonight we gather in all of these ways, not just generation to generation, but through our own version of the well, this island, this synagogue. And we are surrounded by the traditions, by the covenants that we make from one another. And we pray that that which we have learned and experienced this Shabbat will carry forth in the days and weeks to come as we go forward and act in the world. As you've caught on, music is an important theme of this service as well. And so we will conclude this Devar Torah with a meditative musical moment, a piece called The Well. It was inspired by the fact that Isaac redug the wells of his father. They became the gathering places for generations to follow. We know that our people in the desert were led by Miriam on the search for water. And we recognize that the well as a metaphor, this gathering place that we create, is ours to create generation to generation, and to, with open hearts and open arms, to welcome others in. So I invite you to reflect on your gathering, your presence here, what has brought you to this moment, what you will bring outside of this moment as we offer this piece. Give me a second.
Sometimes the well, it runs dry. Sometimes the light, it'll blind your eye. Sometimes beauty will make you cry. Sometimes the well, it runs dry.
Sometimes the well, it overflows. Sometimes the heart, how well it knows. Sometimes kindness blooms and grows. Sometimes the well, it overflows. This is my father's well. This is my mother's well. Mine as well be mine. This is my father's well. This is my mother's well. Might as well be mine as well.
Sometimes the well, it can't be found. Sometimes the voice won't make a sound. Sometimes the feet can't touch the ground. Sometimes the well, it can't be found. Sometimes the well, it fills my cup. Sometimes a little is more than enough. Sometimes there's a diamond in the rough. Sometimes the well fills my cup. This is my brother's well. This is my sister's well. Might as well be mine. This is my brother's well. This is my sister's well. Might as well be mine as well. Sometimes the well gets covered over. Sometimes the fire just makes it colder. But sometimes grace can pull you through. Sometimes the well is dug anew. Sometimes the well is dug anew. This is my father's well. This is my mother's well. Might as well be mine. This is my brother's well. This is my sister's well. Might as well be mine. This is a sacred well. This is a
turn from thinking about how we gather to considering all of the world. Traditionally, we would stand and say Aleinu, and this is where everyone would take a sigh of relief, knowing that we are in the home stretch. Certain things really do seem universal in the Jewish world. But we are also mindful that many here are not as familiar with the Aleinu, and so we have brought an English version, which I think you're introducing.
I'll say something about this. At the end of this Aleinu prayer, it says, Bayom Hahu, on that day, Yehieh Adonai Echad, God will be one and God's name will be one. One of the things that I find a perpetual challenge, I think we find and others may as well, is that translation. A lot gets lost in translation with Jewish tradition. The wisdom is so deep. The call to action is so urgent and so applicable and so intuitive, and yet the fact that the words were written thousands of years ago, that they're in a language that most of us didn't grow up speaking and some of us can't even read or decode, I think puts in an unnecessary stumbling block between us and the core teachings and the beauty and the spirituality of Jewish tradition. And so originally this melody that we'll share right now was set to the words of the liturgy, the traditional prayer. It was in Hebrew. And I thought, you know what, the melody, and you could look at the other side of the page, you could see the translation, you'd be able to figure out the spirit and the heart and the meaning of this text. But I realized that we needed to make it a little more accessible. And so we took that message on that day and thought, what would that day look like? And what would it look like if we welcomed that day together? We would dance and we would sing and we would laugh and we would smile, and a sense of peace would descend upon us and flow through us. And so I just thought, you know what? Why don't we see how it sounds in English to see if we can't evoke the meaning of these words.
So we invite you to turn to the words Bayom Hahu, on that day, in your handout, and we rise together. There will come a day when we shall live as one. Oh, come a day together as one. There will come a day when we shall all be one. Oh, come a day when we shall all be one. And on that day, won't you join me on that day? On that day, stand beside me on that day. We will dance and we will sing. We will dance and we will sing. On that day, won't you join me on that day? On that day, stand beside me on that day. We will laugh and we will smile. We will know peace a little while. On that day, 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 may we live to see that day. May we live to see that day.
May we work.
May we work to see that day.
May we dare.
May we dare to dream that day. May we live to see that day. Arise. You may be seated. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to all humanity. We begin by remembering those who have died in this recent week, whose families are in the period of Shiva, the first week of mourning. Henya Fetterman, And we observe the yahrzeit of the following members and those dear to our members: Martha Blackman, Arnold Carlin, Hannah Levin Christensen, Ron Dick, Adam Jason Greenberg, Miriam Groisman, Thomas Jabison, Irving Lerner, Ruth Lubson, Charles Mank, H. Rivka Levin Nielsen, Morris Ratursky, Seymour Robinson, Susanna Mann Schaefer, Harriet Siegel, Bernard Turk, Rose Abramson, Norman Becker, Leonard Berkman, Lucille Brown, Henry Chakrin, Dr. Ruben Cordova, Harriet Danziger, Artie Dorfman, Leo Eimer, June Friedman, Francis Friedman, Saul Furman, Sophie Gertz, Hortense Goldenberg, Arthur Hegan, Saul Irwi, Rosalind Jones, Louis Korange, Henry Kosterlitz, Anthony Kurtz, Anna Lefkowitz, Lillian Lawrence, Ruth Lupson, Sam Marcus, Stephen Menschel, Florence Middleman, Arthur Nam, Janice Orbach, Philip Paon, Clara Perloff, Richard Peterson, Leon Reinar, Lenore Sherwin, Sidney Solomon, Manae Stone, Richard Taylor, Dorothy Vernick, Bernice Weinstein, Eugene Weisberg, Bella White, Nathan Wickman, Carrie Wood, and Sylvia Zweiback. I invite those who are gathered here in the sanctuary, if you would like to share a name aloud of those who you are remembering, to stand or raise your hand and share the name as our eyes meet. Is there anyone online? Okay, if there is anyone online who would like to share a name aloud, please indicate so, and Chase will unmute you.
Robert Quatska,
Sherna McQueenie.
Zichronam livracha, may the memories of all who we have named and all who remember be for an everlasting blessing. And may those who mourn know that you are gathered in a community of love and a community of support. We rise together and turn to page 598 for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'vyamechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei al-maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Hoseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. And we say together, amen. You may be seated. I would like to invite Max and his Aunt Stephanie to come forward, because it is time to present a few gifts and to transition to the Oneg Shabbat. Trudy, are you presenting? Or, I forgot to.
Come on up, yes.
Okay, so first, Max, tomorrow I will give you the rest of your goodies from Atlanta. As you know, we gave you a book, which neither you nor I needed in our luggage. But here is a Kiddush cup, which is going to become very important in a moment. It is engraved with your initials, and it says the temple, because that is where your studies happened, and I know that you will have many memories of this, which now you get to add to another place that you can call home. So you're going to hold on to this.
Terrific. And when Jennifer called and asked if I would host the Oneg during this week, I said, absolutely. And then I said, what is it? And she shared with me her perspective. And then I talked to a friend and a neighbor, and then, of course, my friend Google. And then I had a wonderful and nourishing conversation with Rabbi Lapidus, who shared not only about the Oneg, but a little bit more about Shabbat. Shabbat. And what I really came to appreciate was that, as we all know, this is the time of remembrance of the day of rest, right? And then another meaning that I began to really appreciate was that Shabbat is that sort of line in the sand, if you will, or that point of demarcation where the week is over. And for those of us who travel to get here, all of that chaos, however controlled or uncontrolled it was, and then we've embarked upon this sacred time, and we have it to be together and to be in community. And I learned more about how this is a time of not only joy, but deep gratitude for what we have. So I thought we'd take a moment and just kind of settle into what we personally are so grateful for. So I would like to invite you to kind of maybe sit up a little straighter, maybe put both your feet on the ground, and begin to just connect with your breath for a second or two and feel the inhale and the exhale of that. And maybe have a downward glance with your eyes, or maybe shut them, and just allow, what is it that you are so deeply grateful for right now? Allow that to surface as you connect with your breath in and out. So maybe on the next breath, or maybe on this one, you begin to open your eyes and come back and connect with the room with that spirit of gratitude for all that we have, and that opportunity of being here with family and community and being together. So, one of the things in keeping with that sense of gratitude that I would like to invite as we migrate over to the Oneg is there will be a box that looks like this, and I invite all of you, whether you're nomads or not, to provide some guidance, some thoughts, or some perspective that as he settles into being held accountable for his faith, that he will have some advice and guidance to look back on. Because going forward, as I understand it, he is now responsible for that his thoughts, his words, and his deeds align with his faith. And many of us have learned the wisdom through the years that we may want to share with him.
And we're going to leave the blessings for Lilienfeld House because there will be wine and grape juice waiting for us.
Awesome. We will do that. Look for the box. And please, on behalf of the family, join us for refreshments and some delicious wine from Trudy and Neil Pryor across the street.
So we're going to do this kind of camp style because maybe 20% of us know exactly where we're going. So we are going to end as we began with the words of Zahayom. This is the day that God has made. Please grab your belongings, follow our bim bam. Okay, song leader's choice. Max, you have the Kiddush cup, so you're going to lead with Aunt Stephanie, so we will be ready for the blessings as soon as we get there.